One of the things about functional medicine that we like to do is make people feel younger. So we brought you to a preschool, we're feeding you juice, and then we're going to use demonstrations of toys. So by the end of the night, you will feel a little bit younger than you did when you got here. Tonight is going to be, first of all, about MTHFR, a few minutes about a epigenetic news event that has been growing over the last several years, even decades. We're going to talk about that for a few minutes by myself. Dr. Hutton and I are then going to tag team a little bit and talk about functional medicine. Functional medicine and how it can benefit you. And then I'm going to close before some questions and just talk a little bit about what we're trying to do, not just in this clinic and for you, but in the bigger picture of medicine. So let's start off just taking a few minutes about MTHFR. How many have heard, besides the fact that we've got it on the flyer out here, had heard about MTHFR before this? So several people. So you probably heard a lot of different stories. Some of those can be very scary. What I wanted to tonight, in a few minutes, is try to boil it down to just some simple things that are the most important things you need to know. And then if you need to know more about that, we're glad to help you. But up here, if you came in and walked by this, you're going to see a big chart. This is the methylation cycle, your neurotransmitters, and part of your antioxidant for your glutathione, if you've ever heard of that. And what we're going to talk about, MTHFR, is that one little circle. If you can't see it, it's that big, and there are tons of these other little circles. What those are, those represent a gene. A protein made from DNA. Those DNA instructions produce a protein. That protein then does a job. And it does things kind of like lock and key. We have your toys. If you try to put the train tracks together like that, they're not going to work. Enzymes have to fit just right so they work. So they take one product, one substance, and make it into another. In this case, you're taking this little thing called 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate, really big word, and changing it into 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. And like, who really cares? In biochemistry class, we would hear all this stuff, and we didn't realize exactly how important this was. Although we did have some professors that actually did say, this is going to be huge. Well, what this is about, this folate cycle processes your folates. So if you eat green leafy vegetables, methylfolates, tetrahydrofolates, dihydrofolates, folates. Your body wants to make it into 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, so then it can combine with the B12 cycle to come over here and make something called SAMe. If you've been to a supplement store, you may have seen SAMe, S-adenosyl methylmethionine. What that does, your body then uses that little SAMe thing to attach to a lot of different places. One of the two big places are to make phosphatidylcholine, so that your cell membranes are healthy when you have enough phosphatidylcholine. You ever heard of creatine? Who goes to the health food store and looks in the muscle building aisle and gets your creatine so you can go to CrossFit and pump some iron? Well, one of the uses for SAMe is to make creatine, so then your muscles can use that to burn energy when you're doing the bicep curls or you're doing the CrossFit. Besides that, so okay, well, your membranes are healthy, you've got some energy. The next thing down is it controls which genes turn on and off in your DNA. So we all have this set of genes. Every cell in your body has the same set of genes. But what happens when something wants to, a cell wants to be a blood cell instead of a bone cell? It's got the same genes. You got to turn something off or turn something on. Well, it controls which ones are turned off and on, so you can control whether you're a blood cell, whether you're a brain cell, a bone cell, or if you're a baby inside a mom, whether or not it affects the spinal cord closing and actually having the spine be functioning when the baby's born. Has a lot to do. Now, MTHFR, what's the big deal about this? Well, most people think of genes, cystic fibrosis, sickle cell, off or on. Got it or you don't, one or the other. The things we're talking about in epigenetics with MTHFR and these other circles is a dimmer switch. Turns it down a little bit, speeds it up, slows it down, speeds it up, slows it down. So if you are trying to control your DNA, if you're trying to produce healthy cell membranes, if you're trying to produce energy for your muscles, you want the right amounts at the right time in the right places. If your enzymes are slowed down or sped up, that can be a big problem. So all this talk, I just gave you a biochemistry lesson. What difference does it make? It matters because we talked about birth defects for children. It seems to play a part in tongue tie for babies when they're born. It definitely plays a part in colon cancer and a number of other cancers. It plays a part in a lot of chronic disease. There are research coming out every month about how it plays a part in between cancer, oxidative stress like in diabetes, heart disease, increases your homocysteine, which then puts you at risk for a heart attack, puts you at risk for strokes. So one of the things we do in our clinic, this is a kind of a micro example of what functional medicine does. I wanted to give you a real life, something that we do almost on a daily basis, is talk about this. We pull this out in the clinic and say, okay, you brought me your test results from somewhere like 23andMe or Ancestry data, different places that get your DNA, gives you a report, and you're like, what in the heck did I do with 20,000 genes? What do I do with it? You bring it to us, we sit down, we use software that pulls out the ones that matter, and we look at this and we say, okay, your symptoms match with the fact that you have MTHFR, it's slowing this down, and then you have these other genes, slows things down more. It's kind of like going down Main Street. If you hit one red light, you're going to hit another one, and you're going to hit another one. Well, that's what happens if all these are red lights. Slower and slower, and your homocysteine can become a problem. So those are a micro example. Now I want to hand it off to Dr. Hutton, and then we're going to just talk a little bit about the big picture of what functional medicine does. Some of your handouts there, you can look at those. If you haven't got one, raise your hand and I'll pass some out while he's getting started.